What is ecotourism? The term ecotourism is comparatively new, although the concept is much older. There are a number of definitions of terms, but perhaps the most comprehensive is that created by the American-based Ecotourism Society, which describes it as purposeful travel to the natural areas to understand the cultural and natural history of the environment, taking care not to alter the integrity of the ecosystem while producing economic opportunities that make conservation of natural resources beneficial to the local people. The international definition of the word ecotourism implies far more than merely a nature experience. The term environment, in its broader context, has come to include the diverse community activities and cultures of a country's people, as well as all the natural resources, including its biodiversity. Ecotourism therefore implies tourist practices that benefit all concerned parties, rather than benefiting some and neglecting others. To meet all the requirements in the above definition, the following are important prerequisites must be met to ensure that ecotourism is sustainable. Number 1. Proper planning before development. Number 2. Sustainable use of resources, which means that there must be no negative impact on either the environment or the local communities. Third, economic viability of all tourism products must be ensured with significant economic benefits flowing to the local communities. Fourth, the developers must be held responsible and accountable for the environment on which their business is dependent. And lastly, the tourism industry and tourists must be properly regulated. Ecotourism involves a large cross-section of professionals. It is in fact a joint operation of caring and creative people who combine their experience on many different levels. Each role player has an important function in the development, operation, and marketing of ecotourism and of ecotourism destinations. The following are the key role players in any ecotourism activity. First, the authority, such as the government or local community and/or owner. If the land is privately owned, from whom permission to operate must be obtained. Second, the tour operators, a registered company and/or individual who brings the ecotourism. Third, the local community, the people who live adjacent to or in area of operation. And lastly, the tourists, the individuals who use the facilities or who are clients of the operator and those who use the facilities themselves. It is important that all these key role players adhere to strict set of guidelines or values to ensure that all criteria are met. Ecotourism concept and principle. Ecotourism is responsible tourism which conserve and sustain the use of biodiversity. It promotes learning experience and builds environmental awareness for the ecotourists and local people. It should respect local culture, gender responsiveness, and adhere growth that considers all stakeholders including women, children, indigenous people, and informal sector activities. It supports human rights and democratic movements. Should sustain the well-being of local people by giving ownership to local communities and provide them business opportunities. Ecotourism provides empowerment for local people. It also provides direct financial benefits for conservation. And lastly, responsible action on part of tourists and the tourist industry. What are our key tourism resources? The main components of natural resources are soil, water, marine, and freshwater. Air and all living things, including our ethnic and cultural mix of people. As stakeholders, we are involved in the management of all these resources through cropping, ranching, forestry, fisheries, supplies and water quality management, soil conservation, wildlife management, air quality control, economic activities, and a host of human pursuits, etc. What is vital for our future is that we look after these resources, and this is called conservation. The wise use of resources or the sustainable use of resources. The three main objectives for the conservation of living resources are to maintain essential ecological processes such as recycling of nutrients and purification of water, the maintenance of life support systems for human development and survival, a group of living things and the physical environment in which they live together is known as an ecosystem. Second is to preserve genetic diversity. Apart from the protection of endangered and vulnerable species, this forms the basis of breeding programs for the protection and improvement of cultivated plants and domesticated animals. Scientific progress like the development of new medicines and the security of many industries utilizing living resources are also dependent on genetic diversity. And lastly, to ensure the sustainable utilization of species and ecosystems, mainly fish, wildlife, forests, and grazing lands, which support millions of people as well as many industries. Resources can be used or abused in the following ways. For the exploitation, the Philippines is characterized with a superb wildlife and scenery and a good prime eco destination. If the wildlife is lost by turning wildlife over to crops or simply fill the land with people, we will be killing the proverbial goose that lays the golden egg. It is said in some quarters that we cannot afford to spend too much money on conservation when so many people are living in poverty. However, the destruction of the resources from pollution and overexploitation also endangers development and human life and creates poverty. So one could will ask the question, can we afford not to conserve? Now, number two, underutilization. There is also the danger of underutilizing our resources. If we fail to develop our resources sufficiently or soundly, we may not be able to provide an acceptable standard for living for all members of our society. And in this turn, could result in great social unrest, economic collapse, and political upheaval. For the overdevelopment, we may overdevelop, where the demand forces large-scale development, which all but destroy the environment. Ecotourism is not a responsible alternative if it degrades environment. Impact of ecotourism. This table shows the economic, social, and environmental impact of tourism. Tourism can bring many economic, social, and environmental benefits, particularly in rural areas and developing countries. But mass tourism is also associated with negative effects. Tourism can be sustainable if it is carefully managed so that potential negative effects on the host community and environment are not permitted to outweigh financial benefits. The Philippines definition for ecotourism. Ecotourism refers to a form of sustainable tourism within a natural and cultural heritage area where community participation, protection, and management of natural resources, culture, and indigenous knowledge and practices, environmental education, and ethics, as well as economic benefits are fostered and pursued for the enrichment of host communities and satisfactions of visitors. Ecotourism concept in the Philippines is described as win-win situation, especially in the protected areas and natural destinations that may be sensitive to the human impact. Over the years, there has been much confusion over the concept that several places are being promoted for ecotourism, despite the fact that they are not practicing or demonstrating sustainable principles. Understanding these principles is part of the responsibility of proponents who wish to engage in ecotourism related projects. A background on the Philippine ecotourism. Pajaro et al. Noted that in the Philippines, ecotourism became popular in 1991 when the Department of Tourism prepared the Philippine Tourism Master Plan in collaboration with the United Nations Development Program and the World Tourism Organization. The concept of ecotourism was formally introduced in 1992 during the Second National Tourism Congress. Then, during the National Tourism Congress held in 1993, there are 10 possible sites were prioritized for this implementation. Since then, the ecotourism related programs initiated included our Kalawit Game and Preserve Project in Palawan, the Philippine Eagle Breeding Center in Davao, and the Philippine Raptors Conservation Project in Los Laguna. Also, the Cave Management and Conservation Program, Coastal Environment Program, Wetland Conservation Program, Philippine Strategy for Biological Diversity Conservation, the Joint Department of Agriculture and Department of Environment and Natural Resources Program on Sagip Dagat and Pantay Dagat with the collaborative activities of San Miguel Corporation, and then the Philippine Council for Aquatic and Marine Research and Development on establishment of fish sanctuaries, sewage farming, giant clams regeneration, and artificial reefs in Subic Bay. Then the creation of the Presidential Committee on National Oil Spill Prevention and Response Policy by then late President Fidel P. Ramos, and recognition of the dangers posed by both oil tankers and exploration activities on the country's marine resources, and conduct of international sports diving competitions spearheaded by the finest diving professionals. Ecotourism is also means to generate income and employment for the local population, to help develop local infrastructure, to raise funds, and to build political supports for nature conservation. The Philippine Agenda 21 identified stakeholders of development programs to include other disadvantaged groups such as workers in the formal sectors, women, children, and youth persons with disabilities, elderly, disaster victims, and overseas Filipino workers. From 1994 to 1998, a series of regional seminars discussed sustainable tourism and ecotourism concepts and elements of sustainable tourism development framework were identified and key issues defined. It was during this period that the Department of Tourism and other agencies such as Protected Area and Wildlife Bureau of the DENR, the National Commission Culture and Arts, and the National Museum collaborated in fostering ecotourism. Afterwards, in 1999, then President Estrada issued Executive Order 111, which created a national ecotourism strategy and program for the promotion and development of ecotourism in the country, and the creation of the National Ecotourism Development Council. The National Ecotourism Development Council was composed of Secretaries of Tourism, Environment and Natural Resources, Interior and Local Government, Trade and Industry, Finance, Education, and Secretary of National Economic and Development Authority, and representatives from the private sector. Under the National Ecotourism Development Council, the National Ecotourism Steering Committees and Regional Ecotourism Committees were established and tasked to implement programs and activities approved by the National Ecotourism Development Council. An ecotourism technical working group was likewise formed to provide technical and administrative support to the National Ecotourism Development Council and the National Ecotourism Steering Committees. Altogether, they were referred to as a Executive Order 111 bodies. In 2001, newly installed President JMA appointed former Senator Richard Gordon as Secretary of the Department of Tourism. With his experience as a former brand manager of Procter & Gamble Philippines and chairman of Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority, Gordon placed the Philippines in the international tourism map by actively marketing the Philippines in several tourism expositions and road shows with the Wow Philippines campaign strategy, winning awards at the ITV and the WTN. The concept of Wow Philippines drew attention from local and foreign tourists. Since then, foreign nationals come to the Philippines in flock all throughout the year to visit almost all islands of the country to see its beautiful places, people, and culture. Various campaign strategies were employed and information materials disseminated to heighten awareness of interested would-be visitors regarding place to go, things to do, and souvenirs available when they come to the Philippines. Nowadays, ecotourism is fast becoming a buzzword for local and foreign tourists, nature enthusiasts, and other individuals who give nature and nature-based tourism as educational, recreational, and a form of relaxation. With the Department of Tourism's current slogan, "It's more fun in the Philippines," and many positive response to it, the national government expect a big leap in the country's tourism industry. However, limited data and statistics have been documented and reported to date. Over the last 20 years, ecotourism has evolved as conservation of a community. It has brought the promise of achieving conservation goals, improving the well-being of local communities, and generating new businesses. The Philippine tourism grows steadily despite the downward trend observed within international tourism in terms of contribution to the global economy. Records show that in 2007, tourist arrivals reached the 3 million mark with 3.09 million visitors, which generated foreign exchange receipts amounting to 4.885 billion US dollars. In 2008, arrival grew by 1.3%, an influx of 3.14 million visitors. Under the Philippine law, tourism have specific law. The Republic Act of 2009, also known as Republic Act number 9593, is a national policy for tourism which encourages the business enthusiasts to invest and employ people in the Philippines. And with this, it will also strengthen the development of Department of Tourism and its attached agencies to effectively and efficiently implement that policy. In 2005, Alampay and Libusada summarized the ecotourism program in the Philippines by location and by type of tourism resources placed. Overall, a total of 322 ecotourism destinations can be visited in the country in combination of marine, terrestrial, freshwater, cultural, and man-made. Ecotourism in protected areas. Protected areas are defined as geographical spaces recognized, dedicated, and managed through legal or other effective means to achieve the long-term conservation of nature with associated ecosystem services and cultural values. These areas are considered the cornerstone of conservation strategies spearheaded by local, national, international actors, both public and private. They are as close to virginal as any area in the modern world could be. So they become refuges and havens for species and ecological processes that would otherwise not survive in habitats that are quickly being taken over by development. Falling under the umbrella of protected areas are a wide range of ecosystems, such as grassland, wetlands, forests, coastal and marine areas, etc. These areas, when protected and allowed to flourish, ensure that ecosystem services like the provisions of clean water, acting as reservoir for resources and protecting the soil, among many others, are constantly and sustainably delivered. Protected areas faces a lot of challenges. Most of stakeholders agree that protected areas faces a lot of challenges. According to the WWF, these problems include poor presentation of habitats, as they are not represented well in the current list of protected areas. Lack of connectivity, since protected areas are for all intents and purposes walled off from the outside world and can only support so many individuals of the same species, leading to isolation from natural habitats. Lack of funds and poor management, since merely declaring a site a protected area is not enough. Stakeholders need money, training, etc. And human activities, since our action can lead into pollution, reduction of invasive species, climate change, and other negative effects. In the Philippines, the most common problems faced by a destination are concentrated on the three major areas. Number one, perennial funding crunch, lack of training, and closing the gap between ecotourism principles and practices. To support those statements, a research was conducted by the Asian Institute of Management on the National Integrated Protected Areas system to determine the issues and challenges in its external environment, as well as the gaps in the implementing units involved. Although protected areas generated income through donations, endowments, and grants, entrance fees and fines, taxes for the permitted sale of flora and fauna, proceeds from the list of multiple use area, and contribution from industries and facilities. The revenues are inadequate to finance their maintenance and operation. Three successive DENA reports are also underscored the inadequacy of funding of these areas. In July 2013, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources released an Administrative Order number 2013-19 with the subject guidelines on ecotourism planning and management in protected areas. Pursuant to Executive Order 192, Reorganization Act of the DENR, Republic Act number 7586, NIPAST Act of 1992, Executive Order number 111, Guidelines for Ecotourism Development in the Philippines, Republic Act number 9593, Tourism Act of 2009, Republic Act number 9710, Magna Carta for Women, and other relevant issuance in order to provide direction in ecotourism planning and management in protected areas. Based on the Administrative Order number 2013-19, the general objective of Philippine ecotourism is to recognize and operationalize for the conservation and sustainable use of natural resources in protected areas. The specific objectives are: number one, to institutionalize ecotourism planning and management process in protected area management, to promote advocacy on the concept and principle of ecotourism, to introduce ecotourism business in protected areas both as a conservation strategy and economic development option through viable business partnership with the local government units or private sector, to promote inclusive equity of socioeconomic benefits to the local community and indigenous cultural communities and encourage community participation, and lastly, to ensure the participation of both women and men in the ecotourism planning and management, and the gender-related issues are addressed in the ecotourism management plan. The protected areas without physical exploitation can generate more revenue in the form of improvement of climate, purification of water and air, storage and supply of fresh water, flood control, biodiversity conservation, tourism, and local community development. Some national integrated protected area system sites showed success in surmounting this funding obstacle. by developing the ecotourism potential of their respective location. The Asian Institute of Management shared lessons from the experience of some selected protected areas, including but not limited to the following: the Raha Sikatuna Park, the Olango Bird and Wildlife Sanctuary, the Puerto Subterranean River, the Tupataharik National Park, the Apu Island Seascape and Scape. It discusses practical considerations on how to utilize ecotourism in promoting appreciation of support for nature conservation and local culture while generating economic opportunities for the community. Bagajon and Del Piero shared lessons derived from the analysis of the protected area cases suggest that there are 7 building blocks for turning protected areas into effective and sustainable ecotourism destinations. Number one, uh, nature product. One must start with a nature product or a scenic site, something that people would be attracted to, or something people that would appreciate aesthetically. A nature product can be an awe-inspiring site that showcases the wonder of nature. At the same time, it can also be a potential setting for nature activities such as mountain climbing, scuba diving, and bird watching. Number two, marketing strategy. No matter how rich in biodiversity or unique in geological features a nature product is, it would not gather steam unless you supplement it with a marketing strategy. In today's fast-paced, technology-driven world, a viable marketing strategy is needed to attract people's attentions. This can come in form of a media campaign with advertisement plugged into print, television, and social media websites. Number three, inputs. A nature product with significant aesthetic value and marketing strategy will not be enough to ensure ecotourism success. However, inputs are pivotal to the success of any ecotourism endeavor. Inputs can be classified as hard or soft. The hard ones consist of infrastructures, while soft ones consist of management policies, system and structures, logistic to support the operation of the ecotourism destinations. With regards to area inputs, infrastructure is a very important factor. Putting up infrastructure such as road, pathways, wharfs, and guest houses would make the site accessible and tourist friendly. Number 4. Private sector participation. Another important factor for effective tourism destination is the private sector participation. The private sector can be tapped for resource mobilization and management expertise. Under the PPP's term, the local government was put in charge of enforcing policies and protecting the area while the corporations managed fee collections and marketing. For example, in Tubatahari, the private sector developed a lucrative business and bringing divers to exotic destinations through liveaboard boats. Ultimately, it is the private sector in search of good returns that will drive the ecotourism development, but in the context of protected areas, this must be in partnership with the government. Number 5, community benefits and participation. Engaging the local communities is an essential part of ecotourism to ensure that they have an equitable share in its benefits. Community-based ecotourism should be based on the general principle of social equity, cultural integrity, and poverty alleviation policies. Ecotourism is an excellent tool to encourage community participation on their direct economic benefits. More importantly, engagement of the community is essential to guarantee sustainability of the project. Mechanisms that ensure a degree of local control and equitable community-wide benefit distribution must be made available. Number 6. Enhance environmental protection in the area. Protection of natural resources at any area should always remain top priority. With the passage of time, tourists may swell in numbers and infrastructure will inevitably expand to accommodate an increased demand. There is a danger, however, that natural resources may be compromised or forgotten, especially if the stakeholders of the ecotourism project are distracted or blinded with a huge revenue. Overloading of trust could easily destroy the ecosystems and lead to a drain in natural resources. For example, in case of Pujada Bay or in Boracay, deteriorating biophysical conditions, elevated nutrient levels, and sedimentation threaten to break the biodiversity of the area. Stringent environmental protocols must be established to prevent the deterioration of environment. And last, leadership. The presence of a catalyst and an organizer is necessary to make an ecotourism program fly. In the case of the underground river in Palawan, Mayor Hagedorn was the moving force that made the underground river into what it is now today. He mobilized local funds and resources to provide the hard and soft inputs needed to fuel the program. He put into the place the different building blocks that constituted the foundation of the ecotourism program. He was instrumental in the move to make the underground river known internationally. Likewise, the park area superintendents in the protected areas have the potential to be essential catalysts and organizers, but to be effective, they must first develop their skills beyond their present biological competence, in addition to learning management and networking skills. Similarly, the proper incentives must be found to motivate park area managers to develop ecotourism strategies. Currently, park superintendents are overworked, overburdened, and tend to view an ecotourism function as an added burden and responsibility. Without an effective catalyst and organizer on the ground, protected areas will never fly. Carrying capacity. The Philippines is gaining popularity with its booming tourist industry. It is one of the Southeast Asian destinations because of its pristine beaches and breathtaking landscapes. However, the increasing number of local and international visitors in our ecotourism sites also cause harmful effects on our natural resources. Thus, there is a need to regulate the influx of tourists to our ecotourism site and manage their activities to maintain the visitors' level of satisfaction and at the same time preserve and protect the ecological condition of these areas. Degradation of our environment and natural resources due to tourism activities can be minimized by determining the carrying capacity of ecotourism site and instituting measures to avoid overcrowding of tourists. Carrying capacity is an important planning tools to make the operation of ecotourism sites sustainable and lasting. This manual was developed by the Department of Environment, Natural Resources, Ecosystem Research and Development Bureau from research findings on different ecotourism sites in the protected areas of the Philippines. This manual provides detailed information on the factors to be considered when conducting carrying capacity studies, how to compute carrying capacity on ecotourism site, and suggestions on how to maximize or possibly increase the carrying capacity of an ecotourism site. This manual will be a great help to our fellow researchers, ecotourism site managers, policymakers, and other interested stakeholders in promoting the proper use of our ecotourism site. Thank you for listening.